The moment Tony's hands slid up my thighs, I knew there was no turning back. My 62-year-old heart pounded like a reckless drum as his breath, warm and sweet with youth, hovered over my lips. My husband Brian snored obliviously in the next room, his CPAP machine humming a funeral dirge for our 40-year marriage. I should have stopped. I wanted to stop. But when Tony whispered, "You're the hottest mom here, Melissa," the last thread of my restraint snapped. Hey y'all, I am Melissa Carter from suburban Ohio, and this is the story of how I destroyed everything. Brian and I were high school sweethearts. We built a life, a son, Danny, now 26, a 3-bedroom house, and a marriage that had long since traded passion for predictability. Retirement left Brian content with golf and beer. I felt invisible, a ghost in my own home. Then came Tony, 22, tousled hair, a gym-toned body that made my old yoga pants feel like a shameful uniform. He had visited Danny, who still lived nearby, and lingered to chat with me. Compliments about my vibe, energy, how I didn't look a day over 50. Flattery is a drug, and I was starved. One Tuesday, Brian dozed off early. Tony texted, "Hey, Danny left his PS5 here. Mind if I grab it?" I opened the door, and there he stood, smelling like ambition and Axe body spray. I offered lemonade. He asked to see the garden. Then my bedroom. I could blame the Merlot, or Brian snoring. But truth? I wanted to feel desired. When I unbuttoned my blouse, Tony didn't hesitate. It was frantic, clumsy, a teenager's hunger mixed with a middle-aged woman's desperation. Afterward, he zipped his jeans and said, "Don't tell Danny." Guilt hit before he had even left the driveway. But so did craving. Thank you for subscribing and joining me in this raw, unfiltered journey. To my new and returning viewers, hit that button. Your support fuels these stories. Share your thoughts below. Could you forgive someone like me? The guilt should have consumed me. Instead, it fueled me. In the weeks after that first night with Tony, I became a woman split in two. By day, I scrubbed Brian's coffee stains from the countertops and smiled at his golf stories, my hands trembling beneath the table. By night, I deleted texts from Tony, "Miss you. When can I come over?" and rehearsed lies like an actress clinging to a fading script. We met in stolen pockets of time, mornings when Brian volunteered at the food bank, afternoons when Danny worked his IT job. Tony's touch was reckless, his hunger a wildfire. He would pin me against the laundry room wall, our breaths syncing with the spin cycle, or slip into the guest bedroom during family barbecues, his laughter sharp with danger. Each time, I swore it would be the last. Each time, I broke faster. Brian noticed. Not the affair, but the cracks. He would squint at my phone lighting up on the couch and ask, "Who's texting so late?" in a voice sanded flat. Once, he found Tony's gym bag by the door. "Left it here last week," I stammered, and stared at me like he was deciphering a stranger. The near miss happened on a rainy Thursday. Tony had just tugged my robe open when Brian's truck growled into the driveway an hour early. I shoved Tony into the hall closet, his smirk flashing in the dark, as Brian trudged in, soaked and silent. "Meeting got canceled," he muttered, eyeing my flushed cheeks. For one suffocating minute, he hovered, rainwater pooling at his feet. Then he turned away, and I exhaled a lifetime of dread. Tony started asking for things. A loan for his band equipment. Rides to a buddy's place across town. When I refused, he would pout, call me selfish, then kiss me until I folded. The power shift was slow, sinister, a leash tightening around my throat. I told myself it was love. But love doesn't taste like bile when you swallow your husband's goodbye kiss. By December, the lies had roots. Brian stopped reaching for me in bed. Danny joked I had joined a cult because I had forgotten his birthday. And Tony? He texted a photo of us, accidentally, to Danny's number, then swore he would fix it. He never did. Danny's key turned in the lock at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. I know because I had been staring at the clock, counting the minutes until Tony's usual visit. Brian was at a dentist appointment. Safe. But Danny? He had texted earlier, headed to Cincinnati for work. Back Friday. Lies, it turned out, run in the family. Tony had just pulled me onto the couch, his hands rough with entitlement, when the door swung open. Danny froze, his duffel bag slipping to the floor. His face cycled through confusion, disbelief, then rage, a storm I had never seen in my gentle son. Tony leapt up, pants half-buttoned, muttering, "Bro, it's not what?" Danny's fist cracked against Tony's jaw before he could finish. The aftermath was a blur of screaming. Danny's voice shredded the air. "How could you?" Tony fled, blood dripping on the rug I had bought for Brian's 60th. I reached for Danny, but he recoiled like I had burned him. "Tell Dad yourself," he spat. "Or I will." Brian came home to find me sobbing in our bed. He sat stiffly on the edge, smelling of mint rinse and despair. When I confessed, his silence was worse than fury. He stood, adjusted his wedding band, and said, "Pack a bag. I want you gone by morning." Tony called that night, not to apologize, to demand $5,000. For the tooth Danny knocked out, he sneered, "Pay up, or I will send the videos to everyone." Videos. The word slithered through me. I had never noticed his phone propped on the dresser, recording. I hung up, numb. Danny's texts piled up. "You ruined us. Stay away from me." Brian slept in the garage. I poured a glass of wine, stared at the pills in the medicine cabinet, and wondered which would hurt less. But then the doorbell rang. A woman stood there, late 20s, mascara smudged. "Tony's girlfriend," she said, holding up a pregnancy test. "He told me you're his sugar mama. You paying for this kid too?" The floor dropped beneath me. The girl's name was Lila. She smoked menthols and cried in my kitchen while I wrote her a check for $10,000. "He said you were lonely," she sniffed, mascara bleeding down her cheeks. "Said you would pay to keep him quiet." I didn't know he was filming us too. Tony had been juggling us both, trading secrets like poker chips. Brian filed for divorce the next week. His lawyer slid papers across a mahogany table, cold as a coroner. "He's keeping the house," the man said. "And the pension." I signed without fighting. I deserved the hole I had dug. But then came the twist. In the attic, while packing my mother's china, I found Brian's journal tucked behind a box of Danny's childhood trophies. Pages dated back to 1998, our 25th anniversary. Melissa's affair with Greg, he had written. "She thinks I don't know." But I stayed. For Danny. My knees buckled. Greg, my coworker, a fling that lasted 3 weeks in 98. Brian never confronted me. Never flinched. He had buried it, let me believe I had gotten away with it. Now, staring at his precise cursive, I realized this was why he kicked me out so fast. Not just Tony. A lifetime of quiet resentment. Danny changed his number. When I showed up at his apartment, he left me sobbing on the stoop. "You're dead to me," he hissed through the door. Tony's videos had gone viral in his friend group, Danny's mom. The punchline of every locker room joke. Lila miscarried. She texted me the news with a single line, "Karma's a bitch." Tony vanished, but not before draining $15,000 from my savings. The bank said there was nothing they could do. In February, I moved into a studio apartment above a nail salon. The smell of acetone clung to my sheets. Brian sent divorce updates via email, subject, mediation date. No, dear Melissa. No sign-offs. Just legal bullet points. One night, I Googled Tony. His arrest record popped up. Assault, theft, revenge porn. A comment under his mugshot read, "This guy scammed my grandma too." I laughed until I cried. The final blow came in March. Brian's lawyer called. He has submitted evidence of your history to reduce alimony. He meant Greg, meant Tony, meant every flaw etched into my marriage like graffiti. I hung up, opened Brian's journal again, and read his last entry, dated the night before I slept with Tony. I still love her, but I don't know who she is anymore. Rain tapped the window. Somewhere, Danny was celebrating his 27th birthday without me. Somewhere, Tony was preying on another ghost. And I was just alive, but barely. Brian died on a Tuesday. A heart attack, the lawyer said, quick, painless. Unlike everything else I thought. I stood at his graveside in a black dress I had bought at Goodwill, the Ohio wind biting through the fabric. Danny stood across the casket, jaw clenched, eyes red-rimmed. We hadn't spoken in 8 months. When the pastor finished, Danny turned to leave. I called his name. He paused, shoulders rigid. "He left you this," he said, thrusting an envelope at me. "No, Mom, just a folded note." Inside was Brian's wedding band and a slip of paper. "Melissa, I kept the journal because I hoped you would change. But I never stopped loving the girl I married. Forgive yourself. Brian." The ring slipped from my shaking hand into the grass. Danny watched me scramble for it, his anger thawing into pity. "He told me about Greg," he said quietly. Said people make mistakes. But you kept making them. I wanted to explain the loneliness, the ache for someone to see me. But words felt cheap. "I am sorry," I whispered. He nodded once. "Me too." That night, I found Tony's final text. "You're pathetic," still unsent in my drafts. I deleted it. The studio reeked of nail polish, but I had grown used to the sting. Brian's journal arrived in a box days later. Tucked between pages was a photo of us at Danny's college graduation, my smile bright, his arm around me. "I still believe in us," he had written on the back. Danny texts now. "Not often. Just you okay?" "Sometimes. It's enough. But forgiveness? That's a ghost I can't grasp." I wake to phantom hands, Tony's, Brian's, my own, clutching at a life that's ashes. The embers are there, a sun's tentative grace, a dead man's love letter, the faint hope that one day I'll look in the mirror and not flinch. For now, I breathe. I survive. To my viewers, this journey through betrayal and brokenness was yours as much as mine. If this story moved you, please share your thoughts below. Could you find forgiveness in Melissa's shoes? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more raw, unfiltered tales. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you from the bottom of my fractured heart.